Okay, I'm going to be showing you how to throw a cylinder. My cylinders I'm turning into mugs. I've been making these mugs for a artist relief fund here in the Triangle area. Half of my proceeds are going to these two organizations that help support artists during these times. So I've gotten really practiced at throwing a cylinder. I'm going to share with you a couple of tips. Of course, centering is key. You can't make anything out of a lump of clay on the wheel unless it's really well centered. So we're going to start with a little bit of water, a little bit of motion between my two hands. You can see I've got my elbows locked in at my knee, and I've got these two hands kind of at my palms touching, connecting. And this hand is doing most of the work. This is just kind of a stabilizing point. This is the hand that's pushing into this other hand in the center and creating this cone shape, moving up, coning up and coning back down. It's also an opportunity for the platelets of the clay to start to align into a circular motion. So after the first cone up, I've got the top part. You can see that this bottom part is not. So I'm going to go up one more time, and I'm going to be intentional about getting down here from the base and making sure that I've got this whole mound of clay centered before I even attempt at trying to create anything. So I go up and then back down, pushing in and down until I've got a nice centered mound of clay. Drilling a hole through the center. Again, this hand, I'm going to get some of that slurry off. This hand is really just the support. I'm supporting it in my waist and here against the bat. This hand gets supported against this hand, and I'm just going to simply drill my opening going down, straight down. You can see I've got a nice grip here, very well supported. And when this hand is resting on the bat, you've now got the point of the reference to the bat, and with these hands connected, you can kind of feel the difference, so that with this hand on the bat and then this hand going down, you'll start to understand the difference between those two, so you know just how far to go down or not go down. Once I get to the point where I'm going to stop, I'm going to take my finger and middle finger, and I'm just pulling back, straight back to myself, toward me this way. Straight back, not down and back, not up and back, but straight back along that flat reference of the bat. Getting a little bit of that moisture out of the bottom, getting a little moisture off the edge of the bat. Now I've got a little donut shape here. You can see it's a tiny bit off center, probably because I've released my hands too quickly. Talking and doing are kind of hard. So bear with me as I try to speak through this process. This is the technique. This first pull technique is what I've learned and practiced from Leon Nichols, who showed me this. Basically what he said is you're going to take your right hand, the hand that's going to be pulling up, and you point it like a gun. You kind of make this little trigger shape. And that's where you put your sponge, right into this point. These fingers are tucked in, and with the sponge here and these fingers tucked, you're making like a little curved shape with the sponge that will go on top of this donut, the top of this donut mound of clay. These two fingers are grabbing the clay at the base and on the inside, and they're going to actually get squeezed and pulled up. At the same time, this is on the top edge of your clay, and it's compressing down a little bit, but also pushing in and pushing up. So it's a pushing up and in at the same time, and it's all connected. It becomes like this unit of motion, pushing and pulling up the side of the wall. Watch this as I make my first pull with this technique. I've got these two fingers. I'm gonna moisten the clay a little bit. You do want the clay to be nice and fluid. Now I'm gonna take a moment here to just push down with my sponge in order to make sure that, and I'm spinning kind of quickly here, to make sure that this is super centered. So once I can see that it's super centered, everything's in position, and it's super centered, I'm gonna push in, pull up all at once, and I'm intentionally trying to go inward at the same time, up and in, so that in one pull, and I'm gonna kind of tap this down one little moment, rest so that that top edge is nice and even. So that was your first pull. I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna get some of this wet clay off the bottom and wet clay around the edge. And I'm gonna go ahead and then at that same point, make one more pull, and it's up and in. This time I'm gonna take my rib and I'm gonna go down with the square of the edges and go in and create that nice bottom edge. I'm also going to clean up. I'm going to take this finger and kind of use it as a support against the rib, and I'm going to tuck that corner into the edge of the clay. I'm pushing it out, and I'm also taking a moment to neaten up the bottom and get any kind of slurry and excess that's at the bottom. I'll probably go ahead and use my rib for my third pull, and it's a flat against. You see those two little notches that are there? I put my fingers in there, and then these fingers continue to hold it nice and sturdy. You know, you don't want this thing floating around. You want it nice and sturdy, and it's flat against the wheel, not pointed into the wheel, but flatted, slightly tipped forward. This hand inside for support, and also it's pushing against the rib. It's those fingers on the inside that are moving up along the side of the rib to create the next pull. That's the other, I released too soon. That's the other beauty about the rib, is it kind of starts to get off those finger marks. But yeah, that's, as I mentioned, you know, you always try to attack your piece gently and release gently. Any fast in or off will set it off center. So you're always kind of getting onto it very gently. And kind of holding and off gently. I'll take an opportunity to get my sponge one more time here at the top to set that rim of the cylinder, i.e. mug. I like my cylinders to be about the height of my rib. That's kind of my measuring point, just at or just below. So I probably have one more pull in here to get to that height. About there, but I'm going to do it one more time, and this time be more intentional about not leaving so many marks behind. This time I'm going to leave a cleaner surface, and this last time I'm going to be kind of thinking about the shape. That's about where I always leave it. Not a bad shape. My shapes are usually pretty simple. I will take an opportunity to kind of clean up this edge, get the slurries off, the little bit of excess wet clay. It helps in the drying out stage. It also helps in the drying out stage. You can see that I haven't applied any water since I first centered it. So my piece is pretty well set up. And it won't take a whole lot to dry out. Creating my bottom, using this side of the wooden tool, clean off some of this old clay. holding then my fingers at the tip here, again tucking in at my sides, and it's kind of like holding it like a pencil. And this is the steadying point. Checking in with it, and then once you've got your point and you're rested and confident, and there you just, actually I speed it up a little bit for this point. You just go straight down, cut it down, releasing that clay with your needle tool, picking that off. I might go back and do one more line in, sort of like a difference between my base and then the bottom of my cup. It's also where I like kind of my handle to kind of meet right at that point. So I'm going to give it a tiny bit more of a contrast going in down here. I'm going to angle it out a little bit more from the side. And that one's going to release probably a lot easier from that this time because I got it with. Here we go. All right. So the last little tip I want to tell you about is, in order, actually I'm going to clean up one little line. I'm going to soften up this line. You can either do it with your finger, so it's not such a hard edge, or you can go in there with your rib. Before you use your wire tool to cut off, I like to take my needle tool and just give a very slight begin to where, you just go like not even 1/4 of an inch underneath the pot with the needle tool. It creates like a little groove that your wire will be able to follow that little channel as you're cutting through. See how nice it releases, and then also you don't leave very much clay at all on the bottom. So that's